What happens to our brain when the eyes are denied? Does our brain change?
So it depends on when your vision is taken away. So for example, there's critical period in development, like they have these experiments with kittens. If they blindfold them at a certain critical period of development, they'll never develop the right pathways to be able to see properly if they don't get that input at the right time. But once you've developed your critical pathways for vision, and then you take it away later in life, it becomes much harder to redevelop that part of the brain. So like it's almost like a piece of clay, and as you get older, it becomes shaped and formed and harder to change. But if you're born without sight, there's other studies that show, for example, in a weasel, if you take the pathways that go from the information that goes from the ear and put it and reconnect it to the part of the brain that usually has to do with vision, that visual cortex will become an auditory cortex. So it can be, it's an all-purpose, I mean, the cortex is pretty much all the same in the beginning, and then it gets shaped and formed depending on what information is being fed into it. So if you start out feeding different, so people who don't see or are born blind probably have better hearing because they have many more pathways and more cortex to use to dedicate to hearing. They can use up that sort of real estate, so to speak.
I'm just thinking of neuroscientists sitting around saying, all right, what are we going to use this week? Badgers, weasels. I mean, it's just
Poor
so
animals.
rando.
I don't do animal research, just for the record. Well, I do human animals, but they can at least consent. Yes.
Well, this whole idea of plasticity of the brain, right? That's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's a very hot topic now.
Yeah.
Science, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing. And the other thing is that our brain is plastic all the way until the day that we die. It's always can be modified. I mean, it might be a little bit more difficult, like let's say to learn a new language, but you still can. And there's this other parts, they're called stem cells, right, that they can evolve into any type of cell, and we have them stored in our hippocampus and our olfactory bulb. There's certain parts of the brain that they can emerge at any time in life. That's why we can always form new memories. So it's exciting that it's this ever-changing organ.
So the fact that we always hear that you're born with every brain cell that you're ever going to have is not right. We've heard this for years and years.
No, you're mixing that up with eggs, Ira.
Well, neurogenesis, I mean, we have a certain storage of new cells that can migrate out. And we're born actually with more connections than we have. And the process of learning, especially, as a child, is a pruning process where you decrease the number of connections, but you make them stronger and more meaningful.